Chapter 949. There were two whiskey bottles on the coffee table. One was empty, and the other was almost finished. The coffee table was a mess. Eileen and Faye were asleep, cuddling on the sofa. Their nightgowns were basically see-through. He would see everything if they had not worn lingerie. They looked like a couple who had a wild night and were cuddling after the exhausting session. The sexy sight made Wilbur feel like he was going to get a nosebleed. The girls were hot with perfect bodies, and they were beautiful in their own distinct way. Any man would go crazy for two beautiful women to cuddle like that. Wilbur left after sneaking a few more glances. Then, he fled after closing the door. He went back to his room, and he could not calm down. It was too seductive. He took a few deep breaths and finally calmed down. He shook his head and sat on the sofa helplessly. Suddenly, his phone rang. He hurriedly answered the call after he looked at the screen. "Nancy, how are you?" "Wilbur, how have you been?" Nancy could be heard on the phone. "I'm fine, you?" Nancy was silent for a long while. "I'm getting married next month." "Huh?" Wilbur looked surprised, but then he realized his tone was inappropriate. He hurriedly said, "Congrats. That's a good thing." "Thank you." "Who's the lucky guy?" "Someone who owned a small business in Skyville. My family introduced us, and he's quite nice to me. So we got engaged." "That's wonderful. As long as he's good to you." "I think." "What is it? Tell me." "I think I want to invite you to my wedding. Do you have the time?" "Yes, of course," agreed Wilbur. Nancy said, "All right. I'll send you the invitation by then." "All right, goodbye." Wilbur looked sad after he hung up. Nancy was his childhood friend. They were desk mates, and they had always been close friends. Nancy helped him out a lot when he was poor, in his studies and his personal life. He always remembered how kind she was. He also sensed that Nancy had feelings for him. Honestly, he considered Nancy before. However, it was too late when they met each other again. He was in a relationship with Faye by then. He could only bury his feelings and his thoughts. The news of her marriage caught him off guard. He sat there for a long while before he mumbled to himself, "Let it go. Don't do anything stupid." Then, he went back to his room. He tried to meditate again. Faye slowly woke up at that moment. She felt a strong headache from the hangover. She almost screamed when she saw that she was tangled up with Eileen. She hurriedly crawled up from the sofa. Eileen opened her eyes in a daze. She squinted to look at Faye and asked, "What's wrong?" Faye blushed. She quickly fled the room. Eileen suddenly laughed at that moment. She looked at her own hand and said, "She feels so smooth. How nice. Wilbur doesn't appreciate true beauty." Then, she licked her lips like she was enjoying herself. Faye went back to her room to wash up and change her clothes. She remained calm again after changing. She sighed after a moment, then went out to work. Evening came, and Wilbur sat by the lakeside, casually fishing.